He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, welcome to the Marlow Show. I'm glad you're here, even those of you who don't understand sarcasm and don't understand irony. You guys may have noticed I did endorse Zoran Mamdani for New York City mayor. And I didn't mean it because I think by definition, Andrew Cuomo is the least qualified person in the world to serve as a mayor. I don't see anyone who could be, let's put it this way. If I found out he was coaching my kid's t-ball team, I would immediately pull the kid from the team. And I don't say that about all Democrats. I think Joe Biden could be an incredible t-ball coach. His policies are responsible for massive deaths amongst elderly people in this country because he took the anti-science approach of cramming sick coronavirus patients into nursing homes with not affected or not infected patients, and then they died en masse. And it is disqualifying completely. And not to mention the fact that you've got a scenario where the city is clearly eating itself alive with all the trash and the crime and the filth and the illegal immigration. And if they want to create more problems for themselves, let that be a lesson to the rest of us. So anyway, we got Zohran. He made it through. You don't mess with the Zohran. That was the most frequent comment that I saw, I think, yesterday, which it's funny. It was like an Adam Sandler movie. I think it was unwatchable. Missy, do you ever watch that Adam Sandler movie about don't mess with the Zohran? I think I don't. I think I walked out. And Sandler's a card-carrying Republican, so I couldn't handle it. But he's there, and he's a terrible guy. You guys have to understand the nature of my endorsement was not out of any enthusiasm for him as a person. It is my loathing of Cuomo coupled with the accelerationism that I think that could be useful as a social experiment to see what would actually happen to New York if you get the type of guy who says, we don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. And the type of guy who would say that we need to ban all guns. He says all this garden variety stuff, like calling Trump a fascist and all this stuff that is just commonplace for people on the left. And I played the clip yesterday, which is just mind blowing, about how he wants government run grocery stores, which is the type of stuff you see in Cuba and North Korea and not the stuff you see in any thriving place in the world, because if you tried that, they will inevitably fail and will be in huge disasters. And I hope he can pull it off. I hope he can try them. I don't know if he can, though, but I would love to see them fail so that then we would have that illustration. We could have that example for people. But it also shows something to me that is very important, and it should be deeply encouraging to people on the right, people in the conservative movement right now, which is that in order to get through a Democrat primary right now, you need to be completely insane. You need to be completely crazy. And this is something that is brand new in this moment, or I wouldn't say it's brand new, but I would say that it is one of the most important takeaways you can have from this moment is that the Democrats, in order to get through their own primaries, what they have to do is be the most radical, be the most nuts possible, or else they're not going to survive and get past their own voters. The comparison to this is what Gavin Newsom's trying to do, where he's, just starting a podcast. He's trying to have Republicans on. He's trying to have a civil conversation with conservative movement leaders, and is not helping him in the polls. He's going backwards in the polls. Why is he going backwards in the polls? Because his core base, the core constituency, the people that helped him survive that recall that he should have lost out in California, they don't like that stuff. They like when you're taking on Trump. So what's he doing now? Now he's calling on Trump to arrest him for what? Trump doesn't care about Newsom. And and Newsom is like begging Trump, will you please arrest me? Please make me a martyr. So what we saw in New York City is that you cannot have a somewhat moderate, familiar person be nominated and get through a Democrat primary. So we'll go the general, and presumably Eric Adams will be the main opposition. And, I guess there'll be a part of me that'll want Adams to win. So if I'm being perfectly honest with you in the audience, but as a provocation, it's very interesting to watch a open socialist Marxist, someone who has all of the caricature opinions of any MSNBC pundit running for the mayor of New York City. I feel like that's really compelling because it will destroy the city in a lot of ways, and we'll see how tolerant people are of when socialism and Marxism is tried, and we'll see how much they can actually pull off when they try to do it. So I'm very compelled by that, but Zoran or Zohran, I'm going to get it confused, so you're going to have to tolerate both, but he will be a huge character. Stephen Miller had a really interesting tweet about it. The commentary about New York City Democrats nominating an anarchist socialist for mayor omits one point: how unchecked migration fundamentally remade the New York City electorate. Democrats change politics by changing voters. That's how you turn a city that defined U.S. dominance into what it is now. And that is a very good summary. And that's why I add on to it that we already had Bill de Blasio. They had already gotten to such a low point. We already had a point where they were deeply tolerant of crime, where any sort of effort to do, they had the broken window policing approach patented by Rudy Giuliani, where they were allowed in New York City to try to bring people in for small crimes, petty crimes, misdemeanors, prosecute them to the full extent of the law, and cleaned up the city. And what the left did is they saw this policy working and they said, no, we don't like it. And then so they went harder on cops and easier on criminals, where they made it so that it was a borderline lawless area. And due to influx in migration, illegal migration, all of this, the demographic shifts made it so that Democrats continue to win, even though Democrats were continuing to ruin the city. And that is an experiment that I'm just in the mood to see it all the way through. I got to tell you, New York was on a pedestal for me and my family, and I haven't been since the coronavirus. I've heard it's been much worse. Everything I can glean from people who I know who live there and work there, that's gotten much worse. So let's put it into hyperdrive. That's where I'm at with it. And look, and if somehow Adams can mount some sort of independent bid and win, then that'll be fine too. So, but we're gonna have a great new character with Zoran, who seems to be way out there. This is a radical. This is a true radical. This guy is no joke. And let's see how it goes. So it's gonna be super, super interesting. This is going to this is something that is, I think, a good sign though for Republicans, for conservatives heading into 2026 and of course 2028, where the Democrats are going to have to embarrass themselves in order to pander to their voters to get through primaries. We're going to get all those clips. We're going to get all those quotes. Mark this down. What's the day? 25th of June, 2025. Marlow's calling it. They will have to humiliate themselves, degrade themselves, debase themselves to get through their own primaries if they want to take on Trump and whatever Republican who's out there. And we're going to get quote after quote, policy after policy that we can hang around them when we get to general elections. So that's positive, and I'm way in on it. Zoran sounds like Joy Reid, the most radical of the pundits who actually got kicked off of MSNBC. We got a Joy Reid quote where she speaks. This is exactly how Zoran speaks. Here we go. Check this out. With the Breakfast Club.
Look, I've been a Democrat since I was old enough to vote, but I'm barely hanging on, honestly, because at this point, the party is not bigger than the future of my kids. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I have 3 children. I have, a daughter and 2 sons that have to live in this country as Black people. And fascism don't work for me, and I'm not willing to cede the country to Trumpism and MAGA simply because I'm clinging to this party. So people getting all mad at Karine Jean-Pierre for saying but I'm not mad at that, because I'm like, at this point, it isn't, who cares what the party label is? Give me an effective fighter.
Yeah, so Trump's a fascist. They don't fight hard enough. I mean, it's all just exactly what you want to hear as a conservative Republican, is that their problem is they're not fighting hard enough. It's not that they're totally unreasonable. It's not that they can't see America carry out a victory and they are rooting against our country and for foreign powers like Iran. Is that Trump is a fascist, even though Trump just won a Democratic election, winning every single swing state, winning the popular vote, the same refrain I give every day in the show, who is carrying out deeply popular policies and is finding those 80-20 issues. Instead of trying to have that be the retort is the Democrats are too weak, they're not fighters. It's everything we want to hear. We are in a position where we need to run up the score. And that's why I do want to get through some of the infighting and amongst ourselves and move forward in that way, because we've got a real chance. So here's Maxwell Frost on the Big Beautiful Bill. We're not back on the domestic agenda yet, hopefully by tomorrow. But this is another one of the Democrat stars. This is how they're talking about Trump's bill, which is going to pass. Check it.
This bill, again, I don't like to mince my words on this. This is an evil bill. It's going to rip away health care from 15 million Americans. It's going to rip away food assistance from millions of people across this country. And you ask why? Is it to do something else important to help everybody? No. It's to give tax breaks to the richest people in this country and mega corporations. And that's the problem. And I know, big boo. And the tax code, it's not the sexiest thing to talk about, but it's really important because it decides how our country grows when it does grow.
So he's saying it's evil. It's not pausing for me. Okay, there we go. So he's saying it's evil to support something that will be the biggest tax hike in American history. If you oppose the biggest tax hike in American history, it's evil. So that's unreasonable, and you can't have any productive conversations with people like this. And this is the posture the left has taken, and it's masturbatory. He says this because it feels good for him, the same way it felt good for Maxwell Frost to fly down to Venezuela for Abrego Garcia, the human smuggler. That felt good. It's public masturbation, what this guy does. He's not accomplishing anything. He's not moving any voters in his direction. Announcing that the opposition to the biggest tax hike in American history is evil is purely an exercise in self-aggrandizement. It just is. And not to mention, for our perspective, the added immigration enforcement, the added the ICE agents, new facilities, new detention facilities, and the Obama Democrats are like that. He built all those facilities. He loves them. So all that just shows you how all they want to do is call us names, and who can call us the loudest names so they can get the most attention on social media. That's what they regard as a popular viewpoint. All right, so the left continues their violent streak as well. Misty has dutifully become our unofficial TikTok reporter as well, and she's pulled some crazy libs on TikTok. And I think this one, sometimes I can't tell if we're getting trolled or not. This one I'm pretty sure is legit. This is what is going for left-wing clout online these days. Check this out.
Dear Iran, this is my official application of states that you should wipe out because we did not vote for that orange Cheeto man over here in Los Angeles. Alabama.
Out of here.
Florida.
Out of here.
Arkansas.
Boom.
Oklahoma.
Get 'em gone.
Ohio.
No.
Kansas.
Gone.
Kentucky.
No.
Arkansas.
Red.
Tennessee.
Fire.
Texas.
Oh, double it.
I think they're laughing at themselves. So I don't think they know that this is helpful to me and conservatives, to make the point that the left is very angry. They're not reasonable. They don't want to get along. They're very violent. They would like to kill us all if they could. So, and this clout chasing online does not reflect normal Americans. There's no evidence that normal Americans like this approach and hate our country this much. Like, these people just genuinely don't like this country and they don't like our electoral system. And it is something that I think normal Americans who yearn for the restoration of the American dream, to have a nice life with their family, to have a meaningful job and a meaningful, well-rounded life, they're not living online with all this stuff where they feel like that we need to call for violence for everyone at every moment. And that just provides amazing opportunities for all of us on the right. And so I'm very encouraged. I continue to be encouraged. In terms of national security, foreign policy, which continues to dominate Trump got a massive, massive win with NATO. The NATO defense spending has been boosted by 5% to 5% of GDP for NATO nations. Trump was roasting everyone. I got a ton of clips. We're going to play a ton of clips. But this is a monumental win for Western civilization, according to Trump. This is so big. One of the core things that Trump campaigned on, where he was so effective, was noting that the rest of the West basically entrusts America to protect all of us. And they freeloaded off of us because you get these NATO nations that are really dependent on the United States. And it is an obligation for the United States to get involved on their behalf militarily. And so they've used that as an excuse to wind down military spending and to boost their own national security and safety. In the meantime, they're all getting infiltrated with their own immigration crises, which are changing their demographics and is changing their national security risk factors. And we're expected to help out every time. And if we're expected to help out, they need to pay what they were committed to paying. And Trump has been slowly ratcheting it up. And now he's got this major commitment from NATO allies to spend. And it's because everyone wants to be Trump's friend right now. No one wants to be on Trump's bad side. Everyone wants to be on Trump's good side. This is monumental. This is huge for us as a country and as a people, that we've got a leader who is trying to get other strong nations. Part of nationalism is strong nations make good neighbors. And we do not want weakness in around us. The world would be a much better place if there are a bunch of other strong countries. Now, we're going to go to bat in a negotiation for ourselves first, but that doesn't mean we want these other countries weak. We want these other countries strong, particularly in the West. And that's what we want. That's what we need. And people who are willing to take America's lead in this regard are it's a great sign. And this is building real substantial allies. We've got a lot of clips from the NATO summit. And I'm going to play a bunch of these because it was a really amazing thing. You've got Trump cooking the establishment media. You've got Trump talking about some of these recent military victories, some of the big news from NATO. But the first thing I want to do before I get into this, I want to share one last thing on Iran, which is important. And I'm glad the ceasefire is going on. It seems to be holding, and hopefully we can start moving on to a more balanced conversation. I got some big things planned for the show that I just can't do when we're in an overwhelming national security foreign policy news cycle, but just track two groups of people in the meantime. The first group of people is a group we've talked about a lot on the show, which is the Republican establishment that would love to see more done. They would love to see more complete regime change, even if that means American ground troops being deployed to Iran, making sure that the Ayatollah goes down. I think that Trump is not interested in that. He's been very clear about that. He doesn't think it's necessary. He thinks it's too chaotic. He does the deal stuff, so he's been known to say one thing and maybe operate in a different way in public. But I am hoping that those public pronouncements that he's had about his desire to not see a regime change, at least one that involves proactive American involvement, is a positive. So I like that. Sure, if the Ayatollah goes down and we don't have to lift a finger and we don't have a casualty, I can live with it. That's not going to be a big problem for me. But our involvement is a massive distraction from the domestic agenda, and I just don't want to see Americans injured or hurt or killed over it. You're starting to feel those aches and pains. You know the ones. Everyday stiffness. When you wake up in the morning after a long day of work, maybe you're on the golf course, perhaps it's just keeping up after your kids or grandkids. Well, you're not alone, because the truth is, as we age, we're at an increased risk of bone loss and joint pain and injuries that can slow us down or take us out of the game completely. No thanks. Here's some good news for you. You don't have to accept pain or weak bones as just part of getting older. The Juvent Micro Impact platform is FDA registered and it's clinically backed to help keep you strong and mobile. In just minutes a day, Juvent delivers gentle, targeted micro impacts that support bone strength and joint comfort, and even stimulate the production of stem cells, all without pills or downtime. Thousands are finding relief every single day, and now it's your turn. Fewer aches, better mobility, increased recovery, and more freedom to do what you love. And my favorite part, it's Maha. It's no doctors, it's no prescriptions, none of that stuff. It's honestly zero risk. Try Juvent for 6 weeks, and if you don't feel the difference, you get your money back. And now you get $300 off with the code MARLOW. That's MARLOW. Don't add the E to it. $300 off. Take control of your mobility, stay independent, and don't let pain call the shots. Go to Juvent, that's JUVENT.com/Marlow. Use the code Marlow at checkout, exclusive $300 off. Take this next step, and it could change your life. All right, so the other group of people is from the fake news media who have been simultaneously trying to act as though Iran was not an imminent threat to Americans, where, of course, it was, trying to wipe us off the map, develop nuclear capabilities, and threaten American targets in the region. Not to mention, there's still hostages from the October 7th attack, and there were Americans that were caught up in that attack, which was funded by Iran, that was dating back almost 2 years ago, over a year and a half ago at this point. The same people who have warned us that we are that we are not vulnerable to Iran at this moment are saying that Trump's attack was not effective enough. Here is Aaron Burnett from CNN. This is just 5 days apart. Check this out.
This timeline of Iran being a few weeks away from a nuclear bomb is in direct contradiction to CNN's reporting. According to U.S. intelligence assessments, Iran is 3 years away from being able to produce a nuclear weapon if they wanted to. So the facts on Iran getting a nuclear weapon do not bear out the claim at the heart of what has put the world on the verge of world war.
Okay, so that was June 19th. So saying Iran's not a big threat based off of a CNN report from the intelligence community. But no, what is the intelligence community? The Peter Strzok's of the world, the people who are attacking the smelly Walmart people, the people who told us that the Russian government colluded with Trump to rig the election and that had all been false. These are the people who are the least credible people in the world, the people who told us that they were WMD in Iraq and justify that war for so long, the type of people who have been feckless against stopping Iranians from funding these terror proxies like Hamas, which carried out the October 7th attack. There are still hostages from that day to this point. Americans were affected by those attacks. These people have been wrong about everything. And so she's saying, well, the CNN says, the intelligence community says Iran's not a big threat. Okay, now let's fast forward 5 days after Trump's attack.
World war. It only set back the Iranian nuclear program by months. We got to call it like it is. It's a big deal.
So only set it back by months. So everything that Trump has been telling us is that it's been set back by many years. And he gets into some of this in some of these clips I want to play for all of you. But I want to give you a sense of this NATO summit. Check this out.
You should be proud, especially you, should be proud of those pilots, and you shouldn't be trying to demean them.
No,
he's at the NATO summit. Marco Rubio's there. Pete Hegseth is there, for those of you not seeing the visuals, and he's talking at a press conference. And I think he's speaking to NBC at this point, but he's taking questions at this point.
Those pilots flew at great risk, a big chance that they'd never come back home and see their husbands or their wives. Let me just tell you, you and NBC, fake news, which is one of the worst, and CNN, New York Times, are all bad. They're sick. There's something wrong with them. But you know what? You should be praising those people instead of trying to find some. By trying to go and get me, you're hurting those people. They were devastated. You know, I got a call from Missouri, great state, that I won 3 times by a lot. And I got a call that the pilots and the people on the plane were devastated because they were trying to minimize the attack. And they all said it was hit. But we don't think it was really maybe hit that badly. And they were devastated. They put their lives on the line, and then they have, and I'm not referring to you, but real scum come out and write reports that are as negative as they could possibly be. It should be the opposite. You should make them heroes and heroines. You should make them really people that they were so devastated when they heard this news. And you know what they said? One of them, I spoke to one of them, said, "Sir, we hit the site. It was perfect. It was dead on." Because they don't understand fake news, because they have a normal life, except they have to fly very big, very fast planes. But it's a shame. You should be making them heroes. All right, in the back.
So he's so right about this, and I've been thinking about this over the last couple of days with how incredible this attack was, and it really was straight out of Top Gun, if you think about it. First of all, these B-2 bombers, they're worth billions of dollars. It's a mystery even where they were, because they'd be such sexy targets for people who are adversaries to attack them and try to blow them up. And they come in there stealthily. I mean, who knows how long those pilots were in the planes? I mean, it could have been hours, 15 hours. Like, who knows? Some of the reports I'm hearing. And they come in and, they hit a target the size of the Toyota Corolla, and they just nail it, just obliterate it, 3 for 3, just not a scratch on any of them. They get out of there undetected. They don't even take a single shot of fire on them. And they get back, and then you get Israeli reports. So this is Israeli intelligence, which in the region is probably better than our own. They said the Iran's Fordo is now inoperable. They have no reason to put this out. If they want a regime change, if they want to continue to fight Iran and to beat Iran, they have no reason to tell us that our job is done. And yet that's what they're reporting. And then we've got the American intelligence community / fake news journalists trying to not treat these pilots like they're Tom Cruise and Top Gun, but instead to treat them like they're some sort of a prop for Trump to lie about stuff. It is really sick. It's really sick stuff. These are sick people who are rooting against our country. That's what's crystal clear to me, is they don't want Trump to succeed because they've taken the approach that if Trump does it, it must be wrong. That's their definition of fascism. They keep talking about fascism. What's a fascist? Their definition of fascism is Trump and anyone who supports him. That's their definition now. So it is clear as day that this was a monumental success. Everyone knows it, and Trump is right to celebrate these guys, and he's right to call out the media for not doing it. Pete Hegseth goes in on the fake news next. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Meeting for a tactical reason with President Putin.
Let him answer this question.
Hello, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah. There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots, these refuelers, these fighters, these air defenders, the skill and the courage it took to go into enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the American people and the world to take out a nuclear program is beyond what anyone in this audience can fathom. And then the instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons, to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce? And when they introduce that preliminary report,
yeah, this is in reference to some leaked information that suggested that maybe the attack wasn't as effective as some of the things that Trump's reporting, but it's countered by the Israeli intelligence that is probably superior anyway. So it's and of course the leak is, Hegseth is correct. It's not providing full context. It provides partial context to feed the media, which the media is very happy to amplify because, again, they're rooting against this country, which is crystal clear to me. And this is something that I've said quite a bit on the show for a long time. And people I think thought I was crazy when I started to say this, but now I think people get it, is that the left does hate this country. It's not just about they're liberal. It's that they really don't like America and they don't want America to succeed. And they were rooting against Trump having a successful attack on Iran's nuclear facilities and setting them back years, setting them back trillions of dollars in spending. Their air defenses are crippled. They've lost so many of their top generals and scientists. This is better for the planet. It just is. I understand the risk that a lot of you have very low tolerance for seeing any new wars, any potential where ground troops get involved. Completely empathetic to that. I understand it. But the bottom line is the thing was a success. We're out. No casualties. It's miraculous. And we should be celebrating now. We should be high-fiving. We're heading into July 4th. Should be a patriotic time in this country. And instead, what are we doing? We're fighting amongst ourselves. It's just not healthy.
A low assessment. You know what a low assessment means? Low confidence in the data in that report. And why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence of what was just bombed by 12 30,000-pound bombs is buried under a mountain, devastated and obliterated. So if you want to make an assessment of what happened at Fordo, you better get a big shovel and go really deep, because Iran's nuclear program is obliterated. And somebody somewhere is trying to leak something to say, oh, with low confidence, we think maybe it's moderate. Those that dropped the bombs precisely in the right place know exactly what happened when that exploded. And you know who else knows? Iran.
His point about, it just reminds me of my big point, which is that why aren't we celebrating these pilots as heroes? Let's get to know who they are. I mean, maybe that's not good to expose who they are for whatever reason, but I mean, let's give them a medal or something. Speaking of medals, Bernie Moreno sent us an exclusive today at Breitbart that introduced a resolution backing Trump for Nobel Peace Prize. Absolutely. I told you he's an agent of peace. He's an anti-chaos agent. Of course he deserves it. The fact that Obama got the Peace Prize for nothing, of course, Trump should get it for what he's done. The evidence is crystal that the world gets safer when Trump is in office. There are fewer wars. There's fewer invasions. There's fewer things that get started and amped up thanks to Trump. And then once a Democrat or a weak-kneed Republican gets in there, the world gets more chaotic. It's crystal. It's obvious. But I like the resolution because even though the Peace Prize means nothing, terrorists have gotten it. Obama got it for nothing. It's still worthwhile because it exposes it for what it is, which is not credible and not meaningless, if they don't give it to him. If the Nobel Committee wants to restore credibility, they've got to give it to Trump. All right, let's continue. We got some more Trump talking nukes.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
If the Iranians do rebuild, would the United States...
If they rebuild?
Would the United States strike again? And I have also a question about Russia.
I'm not going to have to worry about it.
We're watching a CNN broadcast. I don't know who the journalist has been asking if Iran's able to rebuild and Trump is about to go full Trump.
Worry about that. It's gone for years. It's very tough to rebuild because the whole thing has collapsed. In other words, inside, it's all collapsed. Nobody can get in to see it because it's collapsed. You can't go in to see a room that has, 10 million tons of rock in it. And the tunnels are totally collapsed.
But if they rebuild?
Well, they've already looked at the tunnels. This was an unbelievable hit by genius pilots and genius people in the military, and they're not being given credit for it because we have scum that's in this group. And not all of you are. You had some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick. And what they've done...
He's just cooking. I mean, it's funny. I hadn't played this clip all the way through, and he's using the same language I'm using, and he just does it in such an effective way. These people are scum. But not all of you. Some of you are terrific. Some of you are some of the best people. But CNN, you're scum. And MSDNC, you're scum. New York Times, New York Slimes, they're scum.
Done is they're trying to make this unbelievable victory into something less. Now, even they admit that it was hit very hard, okay? But it wasn't hit hard. It was hit brutally, and it knocked it out. The original word that I use, I guess it got us in trouble because it's a strong word. It was obliteration. And you'll see that. And it's going to come out. Israel is doing a report on it now, I understand. And I was told that they said it was total obliteration. They have guys that go in there after the hit, and they said it was total obliteration. And, I don't want it for me. I want it for the pilots. I want it for the military. They did such a good job. If you were in the Situation Room with me, with the generals and all of the people that did such a good job, and then they get demeaned by these idiots at CNN who can't get ratings, the place is dying. Nobody wants to even waste their time going on their shows. So they form with the New York Times, who's dying also. Without Trump, you wouldn't have a New York Times.
So the reason why the left has to do this is not just that they hate this country. They don't have any real arguments. I mean, they just nominated the Democrats, a guy in New York who believes that queer liberation means defund the police. So that's what they're on. Trump has got precision bombings with B-2s on Iranian nuclear sites, and he's carrying it out without any casualties, whereas the left is trying to talk about queer liberation, whatever that means, and defunding the police is the same thing. That is the intersectionality stuff that's dying in this country. That's all the left is on. The UN now is getting banned by Iran from their nuclear sites. So the UN, as we've discussed on this show many times, exists mostly to attack Israel. Half of their resolutions are related to attacking Israel. Their agency, the IAEA, which is their International Atomic Energy Agency, are now getting banned from Iran because they came out with that report that we cited 2 weeks ago, suggesting that Iran was a violation of certain agreements that they'd made. We don't know the extent because access to information is fairly limited, but Iran was not being cooperative on their nuclear sites anymore, which I'm sure was part of the reason why Trump attacked. And now Iran is moving against the UN. Are they moving against the UN because of anything other than that? They're at a point of deep, deep weakness because Trump has devastated them, because they have been obliterated. They're not being cooperative at all. They're on a wartime footing now, and they're on a wartime footing because of the devastating nature of the attacks by Trump. And if you're not rooting for it, then I don't know what you can root for in this world. All right, we got a couple more clips. Play a little bit more.
We not succeeded with that hit. That hit ended the war. That hit ended the war. I don't want to use an example of Hiroshima. I don't want to use an example of Nagasaki. But that was essentially the same thing. That ended that war. This ended that with the war. If we didn't take that out, they'd be fighting right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he's talking about Fordo there, but that's right. It's just that's why he deserves Peace Prize. That's why he's peace president, is because he understands innately that if you have a show of strength and you have a devastating attack, then we can get back to peace in 2 weeks, in 12 days to be specific, instead of having to drag all this stuff out. You've heard me talk about efforts by the legacy media to stop you from accessing shows like this one. They can do it through limiting spectrum that's available for consumers like you to access shows like this. They actually say it's a national defense issue, which is obviously absurd. So Trump isn't buying it. Neither is Senator Ted Cruz. And in the big, beautiful bill, Republicans have heard your voice and are providing you with more spectrum. But what does that mean for you? It can reduce your monthly broadband bill and preserve your ability to watch, listen, and stream content that you choose, not what's chosen for you by some cable provider. The sale of this spectrum will also generate billions of dollars to reduce our national debt. Don't let giant cable providers and legacy media continue to filter your information. Tell your senator and member of Congress to work with Senator Ted Cruz and President Donald J. Trump to expand spectrum and end the legacy media monopoly for good. You can learn more at endthecableopoly.org. That's endthecableopoly.org. And the world is understanding this. The world is understanding that Donald Trump is in the catbird seat here. He's the leader. He's the alpha of our time. He's the main character of this century. And they want to be our friend. They want to be his friend. And it's just amazing that the people who are going to be the last on the bus are committed Democrats and people in the United States who are in the establishment media who it just is cognitive dissonance for them to support him, because they have to admit that in a vacuum, what he's doing is incredibly effective, and it does keep us out of harm's way. And that's why when he was in NATO, they were calling him Daddy. Check this out.
Let's stop this. And you know what? Israel said it too. Very smart. They fought like hell, and then they said, let's stop. And they're going to build themselves. And I really see it as sticking. I mean, we may do papers on it, Marco. Maybe we're going to do papers. I don't even know if you need them. They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easier to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
That's Mark Rutte. I think you pronounce it Rutte. Maybe it's Root. I don't know. But he's the NATO Secretary General, and he's saying that you need a strong man, a man of strength, a man of peace, and the daddy to come in to break up the two kids fighting in the schoolyard. It's exactly what Trump does. He has that role. And it's interesting because I cited one of the reasons I was reassured by him back in 2015, when Breitbart was the first major media publication that was on board with Trump and understanding Trump and took the time and effort to give him a chance and to see the wisdom that he brought and the strategy and the issues that he brought when he was just getting off to his start of his political career. Part of it actually was this exact point to me, is that I saw the way that he interacted with his adult children, because I'd seen The Apprentice one time and I watched one season of it. I wasn't a committed person, but you could see that in all his interviews, how poised the children are, how effective the children are, even the ones I care for less, wink, wink, Ivanka. You still see that they're impressive people and they get along with him well. And it just makes you feel like he's got a solid understanding of how to deal with people who can be adversaries, who they don't know what's good for them. And you could teach them what's good for them. And that is a very paternal, fatherly characteristic. And it's something that really made me reassured that maybe that what he's doing is going to work. Maybe his reset that we need is going to work. And that's where we are. And I think it's a very positive place. So couldn't be more excited. And that's why everyone in NATO is trying to get on board now. 5% of GDP, boosting their spending is going to make the world a safer place. Iran is on notice. NATO is coming to heal. Good stuff from the president. All right. Other quick ones I'll bring up. I'm getting word. We got a fresh report of Breitbart panic on the Democrat side after Zohran, too extreme to lead, winning the primary. See, guys, it's my endorsement's going to age very well. People are going to really like it in retrospect. I got to tell you, it's not a hobby. It's not a hobby that what I'm doing right here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. LaMonica McIver, the congresswoman who swung her hips at ICE agents, has pled not guilty after the altercation at the ICE facility. Got to get back on those deportations. Looking forward to that. MSNBC's Nicole Wallace said she's gutted over Trump's deportations. This is a rich, privileged person who impersonated a Republican for a while and is really just a generic liberal. She's just gutted over the deportation. We're trying to kick gang members out of the country. You don't be gutted over it. It's too much. The people don't like illegal immigration that much. It hasn't gone well. We are at the point where we can ask the question, how is it going? It is not going well. The illegal immigration has not gone well for this country. So we're going to do something different now. So why not mix it up and say, well, maybe we shouldn't. But you know why? They're afraid they'll lose their base. And that's why we got to run up the score now. One last one I'll point out, the Swiss national women's soccer team was crushed by a team of 14-year-old boys 7-1. So in case you don't think there's a difference between men and women physically, I mean, men and women can be the same. You think you could wake up one day and decide you're a woman if you're a man and you're a man if you're a woman? You're in complete denial of science and you are a hindrance towards human progress. And that's why I've gotten very low tolerance for any of the trans stuff. So a pristine example of the difference between men and women and why we got to reject all the trans stuff now. Got to end it. Got to end the charade. Swiss national team losing 7-1 to 14-year-old boys. Amazing stuff. That's today's show. Thanks to producer Misty. Tomorrow, God willing, I'm going to make one of the biggest announcements I've ever made. So I'm hoping to have that for you tomorrow's show. We're also going to be talking to Kevin Keene, the president and CEO of the American Beverage Association. We're talking some Maha. We're talking about some small businesses. We're talking about how Dr. Pepper comes up with all those crazy flavors. So all that's going to be really interesting for you as well. And until then, Breitbart.com for all your news. Talk to you next time.